Okay, we are getting started. I have hit broadcast. We should have folks entering just a moment. Hi, everyone. As you're coming in, please drop in the chat where you're coming from. Let us know where you're from, what your favorite, I think actually tonight, I'd love to know what folks' favorite art supply is. Like what, if you were going to make a piece of art, what kind of thing would you be making art with? So drop that in the chat, drop your location in the chat. It's always fun with these Zoom events to have a sense of where folks are coming from. Cool. As you're getting settled in, I'm going to do a quick introduction. My name is Timothy. I am with Wild Rumpus Books. I'm one of the events and communications coordinators at Wild Rumpus Books. We are a bookstore for the young and young at heart in the Linden Hills neighborhood of Minneapolis. My colleague Jess is going to be monitoring the chat and dropping links to buy a copy of Pennsylvania, the wonderful book that we are here to celebrate. I have my advanced copy here. I got to get my beautiful hardcover next time I'm in the store. So you can find the link to buy that book in the chat. We also have a 15% off code that we are giving folks who attend tonight. That is also going to be in the chat. Don't forget to grab that as well. I do want to mention that we are recording this event. I want to thank Sourcebook Kids, the publisher of Pennsylvania, for permission to record the event. It will be available on the Wild Rumpus YouTube channel moving forward. We should have that up in the next day or so. Oh gosh. Got issues on my end. Okay. There are going to be time for questions at the end. Feel free to drop those in the chat at any time as well. So we'll get to those. I just want to throw that out right off the bat. So without further ado, I'm going to do a quick introduction for both of our presenters tonight. First of all, we have Stephanie Watson, who is the author of several books for young readers, including Best Friends in the Universe, Behold a Baby, and Elvis and Olive. In addition to writing, she loves teaching writing workshops, giving author talks at schools and libraries, both in person and online. She lives with her daughter in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I am also coming from. You can learn more at stephanie-watson.com. We also have the illustrator of this wonderful book, Sophia Moore, who's a Ukrainian-American artist and illustrator based in Las Vegas, Nevada. She loves painting traditionally and layers textures both on paper and digitally. Her ideas come from sketchbook drawings and making up stories all day. And I know that we are going to get a peek at some of those sketches in just a little bit. So thank you all for being here. Don't forget to order the book. That link is in the chat again. And don't forget your code for 15% off. Stephanie, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Timothy. And thank you to Wild Rumpus for hosting this event. If you haven't already been to Wild Rumpus Books, I encourage you to go if you're in the Twin Cities area. It's a magical place. And I also am so happy that Sophia is here. We recently met over Zoom so we could talk about what we were going to share with you today. And it's just been an honor to have her be the illustrator for this book and to get to know her. So thank you so much, Sophia, for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I am going to read a little excerpt from the book. Don't worry, I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's pretty thick. I'm just going to read it, give you a little taste in case you haven't already started the book. But before I do that, I do want to say that I got a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board this year, which has been very helpful. It's helped me to have time to do some writing and also to do promotional events for the book. And because I got this money, I need to say this little bit of language, okay? I'm like contractually obligated, so please humor me, okay? This activity is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board, thanks to a legislative appropriation by the Minnesota State Legislature and by a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. Whew, that's a mouthful. Okay, so thank you, Minnesota State Arts Board. Now, I'm going to read a little bit from Pennsylvania, but I'm not going to read right from the beginning. So I need to give you a little bit of context, okay? So the book is about a girl named Zora, and she loves to draw. It's her favorite thing from, since she was very little, it's been her number one thing. And the creative energy that she feels when she's drawing, her mom calls it the VOOM. It's kind of like the creative impulse in her. And I think we all have VOOM. Maybe you use it to build Lego structures, or I probably use my VOOM to write. Or some people might use it to ride a bike if that's their favorite thing. So for Zora, her VOOM goes toward drawing. But then something really bad happens in her life. I'm not going to spoil it, but something happens that makes her VOOM kind of go away. And she's feeling very sad. She doesn't feel like drawing anymore. In fact, she's pretty against drawing at the point in the book that I'm going to read to you. She's so against drawing that she decides she's going to scribble out all of her artwork and she's not going to draw anymore. So right at the point where I'm going to start reading, the scribbles have lifted off the page and pulled Zora and her little sister into Pennsylvania. Okay. They don't know where they are yet though. All right. So this is chapter 5. Ow. Zora's entire body throbbed like a funny bone feeling, except all over. She opened her eyes. An incredibly bright light forced them shut again. She coughed out a mouthful of, what was this stuff? She ran the tiny, spongy balls between her fingertips. The balls were nearly weightless, like the styrofoam inside a beanbag chair. Zora fought the painful light with her eyelids, finally managing to slit them open. Am I dead? She wondered. Is this that tunnel of light you always hear about? Zora pressed her hands down to sit up, and the soft, loose ground shifted beneath her. She didn't feel dead. Gradually, her eyes adjusted to the brightness. She looked down at the tiny orange, yellow, and brown dots surrounding her. It was like she was in a ball pit, but she was giant compared with the balls. This wasn't the pile of scribbled papers she had been falling toward. It appeared to be a beach, but a beach made of styrofoam sand. She examined her wrist, chafed from where the scribble rope had clutched her tight, but the rope itself was gone. A cool breeze tickled the nape of Zora's neck. She turned, shielding her hand with her eyes, or her eyes with her hand. Flat, overlapping layers of turquoise and cobalt and sapphire and cerulean and indigo and every other imaginable shade of blue slid up and down all the way to the horizon. Zora squinted. Was it a lake? Kind of, though not any lake Zora had ever seen before. Some of the blue layers had the grainy look of crayons on construction paper. Some had the soft bleed of watercolors. Some seemed to be made with colored pencils, and a few had what looked like giant finger lines combing through glossy paint. The layers rose and fell softly, like the water was breathing. Zora, said a muffled voice. Frankie. Zora remembered her sister with a jolt. Where are you? A small hand broke through the surface of the styrofoam sand a few yards off. It gave a weak wave. I'm coming. Zora crawled toward the spot where Frankie was buried, her hands and knees leaving dents in the loose, shifting sand. Zora grabbed Frankie's hand and pulled. Frankie emerged, the foam sand rolling off her like water droplets off a duck. Are you okay? Zora brushed dots out of Frankie's hair. Yeah. Frankie tried to open her eyes, then shut them with a grimace. Whoa, it's so bright. Zora squeezed along the length of Frankie's legs, checking for breaks. She seemed to be in one piece. The rope that had gripped her ankle was nowhere to be seen. Does anything hurt? No, Frankie said. Then she gasped, like she had just remembered something. Zora! We fell. Frankie collapsed back onto the soft sand with a poof and made a snow angel, a sand angel. There were these Jack and the Beanstalk vines and they carried us up and the room got all weirdly big and then we were falling like, whoa, and I was screaming and it was so fun. Fun. Zora raised an eyebrow. Almost dying wasn't fun. A turquoise wave rushed toward the beach where it crashed with the sound of crumpling paper. Zora's breath snagged in her throat. Wait, the water didn't just look like it was crayoned and penciled and painted. It was crayoned and penciled and painted. Zora shaded her eyes and looked up. No wonder the light was so intense. 5 suns, each one a different kind of yellow or orange, huddled together in the pale blue sky. The sun's thick, stubbly rays looked like they were drawn with chunky baby crayons. The smallest orange sun suddenly broke from the pack and scuttled like a spider on its rays to the far side of the sky. The other suns chased it around in circles until a large yellow sun touched the small orange one with a long golden ray. They're playing tag, Frankie said, laughing. Suns playing tag? A possibility dropped into Zora's head, making it whirl. The suns and the lake were drawings. Were she and Frankie also drawings? Zora quickly checked her palms, then the backs of her hands. Phew, normal. Frankie looked normal too. They weren't drawings and they weren't dead, but where were they? What was this place? Zora, look! Zora followed Frankie's pointing finger to the massive structure sitting on the grass that bordered the beach. The wheel was at least 10 stories tall and drawn in black colored pencil. The capsule-shaped cars dangling from the edge of the wheel, swaying gently in the lake breeze, were red, blue, green, and yellow. Zora blinked. This wasn't just any Ferris wheel. It was the one from the Minnesota State Fair. A memory flooded her. Sketching the wheel while Mom and Frankie waited in line for a bucket of French fries. The 3 of them soaring high above the fair on the wheel, eating the hot, greasy fries till they were stuffed, cheering every time their car reached the very top. Zora squeezed her eyes closed and pushed away the memory. Come on, Frankie said, and took off running toward the wheel. Wait, Zora said, running after her. But Frankie was already climbing into the yellow car swaying at the bottom of the wheel. Worse, the giant wheel was starting to turn. Quick, jump in, Frankie said. Zora had no choice. She jumped in. The Ferris wheel lifted their car, which made Zora's stomach drop and made Frankie squeal with delight. The shoreline grew small and the view stretched wide. A series of rolling green hills led away from the beach where they had landed and ended in a large cluster of buildings. It looked like a city center. In the distance, Zora spotted a dense forest that merged with a hazy mountain range drawn in soft grays and purples. The whole place seemed to be surrounded by blue water. They were on an island of drawings and paintings. Where are we? Zora said. Pennsylvania, said a voice. It was coming from the yellow car directly in front of them. This can't be Pennsylvania, Zora said. We live in Pennsylvania and it's nothing like Pennsylvania. A face with whiskers and pointy ears peeked over the edge of the car. You know, like the drawing tool. There are talking cats here, Frankie said. I love this place already. The cat blinked its large green eyes. Everything she's ever drawn or painted is here. Who is she? Zora had a sinking feeling. I'll stop there. So, yes, that is their first, those are their first moments in Pennsylvania, and they go on to meet a lot more, many more creatures, a lot of which are drawn in the book. If you haven't already had a chance to look at the book, it's just full of illustrations, which were so fun for me as the writer. Oh, there's this guy. This guy's coming later. So fun for me as the writer to see what Sophia, the illustrator, came up with to give life to some of these characters that had lived in my head for a long time. So this is the finished book, right? This is what you see when you order it online or you go into the bookstore. And it's always fun when we get to this part of the process where there's like a finished book to hold. But I'm also really interested in what happens before all that. I always like hearing writers and artists talk a little bit about their process, about how do they get to the point of having a finished book. So I thought I would show you just real quickly a couple of the tools that I use when I'm writing. So the first thing I want to show you is one of my notebooks. I just use spiral notebooks that I buy very cheaply. I don't use fancy notebooks, and that's on purpose because I want to not feel precious about it. My writing in the very beginning is a big mess, and a lot of it doesn't make it to the final stage. So I want to feel okay about, wasting paper and using as much paper as I need. So here's like a sample of what my handwriting looks like. And I know people were talking about their favorite writing tools or their favorite art tools. This is one of my favorite art tools. It's a fountain pen, and I refill it. I could write with a regular pen, but there's something, I've just gotten a little attached to my fountain pen. It feels like it sends a message to my creative side that it's writing time when I take out the fountain pen. So yeah, oops. So in this one, this is like a part where I was working through the details of the Ferris wheel. I was trying to imagine so I drew a little picture. Here's the Ferris wheel. It doesn't look as good as Sophia's, but it gave me a little bit of information. So I could write about this scene. Okay, here's another one. This is from a scene later when she meets all these self-portraits that she's made throughout the years. We all make self-portraits at school. Well, every drawing that Zora has ever made in her life lives in Pennsylvania. So all of the self-portraits are there. And so they have their moment. What else do I want to show you? So this is another big part of my process is I print out the big document. I do it in Microsoft Word. I print out the big document, and then I do what I call a read through, which is where I read it out loud to myself. And it takes a long time to read it out loud, and my throat gets sore because it takes hours and hours. But meanwhile, I'm making all these notes. I don't know if you can see. I'm making little notes to myself about where I need to tweak the language because my ears catch things that my eyes miss when I'm reading through it. So this is one printout that I made. I try not to print it out excessively because then that would be a lot of trees that I'm killing, but I've probably had to print it out like 15 times to do these read-throughs over the years. So let's see, I think those were the materials I wanted to show you. Let me think if I had anything else. I think let's hear from Sophia now to hear about her process.
Hello, everybody. Very nice to be talking to you through the screen. Thank you, Stephanie, for telling us about your process and reading. It reminded me right away how I felt when I read the manuscript first, and what struck me that the book is so full of visual material for an illustrator that I was really excited to start illustrating this wonderful book. And Stephanie, you were reading from this chapter, and this cat is chapter opener. I kind of like how it turned out. I tried to fill it with textures and different shades of gray. I'm very sorry that it's in black and white, and I wanted to put as much color in it as possible, but unfortunately this is black and white only. So I prepared to show some sketches that I was working on during the illustrations process. So I'm gonna share my screen and let's see. Could you let me know if it's showing? Okay.
It's showing now.
All right, so these are the sketches that didn't really make it, and they are in a really sketchy phase. This is the cake that the girls made, and I'm sorry, it was grandma's cake, and the girls didn't like it, so that was lopsided a little bit. So this is the sketch that didn't make the cut. Couple more scribbles. I really like this image, how it turned out. So, oops. Okay, so this is Zora looking at the tiny airplane and wondering how it's gonna work out. And these are my favorite characters here, dancing. This is the sketch for one of the chapters with all the angry animals running in one big crowd. And I developed it further than that, and it looks like a sketch now, but then I made a finished illustration. This is the sketch. Okay, so this is how it looked in the beginning. So I made a video to show you how my sketchbook looks. This is not for Pennsylvania book, it's just to show you how I usually work on my ideas on paper. Can you see it?
Yes, we're seeing it. It's amazing.
So I usually use different materials, but most of all it's pencils and some kind of paint. So, all right. It was really kind of exciting and pretty easy to work on illustrations because of course it's coming from a 12-year-old girl, and I tried to stay in this set of mine, and really working with the pencil is kind of natural because everybody kind of start drawing their first drawings with the pencil, and I grew up in a family of architects, and we had pencils laying around in the house everywhere, so it's very natural to pick up a pencil and start scribbling something. So, well, I hope I did a good job, and
you did an amazing job. I was blown away. Everybody who's ever seen this cover is like, whoa, and I was among them. This was so beautiful. And I saw you had posted today, there were a couple other, like, you were playing around with different cover ideas. Like, what was your process for figuring out what the cover was going to look like?
Well, I was given a brief to show before even I read the book. The art team told me what exactly should be shown on the cover, and I needed to make five different sketches. and then developed from those sketches three semi-final covers, and then from there those they decided which one is the best, and we worked on the final cover with different colors and different placements. So it was a lot of work on the cover only.
Yeah, well, I love it. I had a question, maybe, and then we can have time for Q&A pretty soon. But sometimes when I'm writing, I get stuck. You know, I don't know what comes next in the story, or I just don't know how to move forward. And I'm wondering if you ever get stuck in your illustration work or your painting work, and like, if you do, what do you do to get unstuck?
I have a small library of my favorite children's books that illustrated by my favorite artists. So I usually go through those and get some ideas. For Pennsylvania, though, I had to find my old children's drawings when I was small. My parents saved some drawings, and I even have my dad's portrait here in the States with me. I brought it from Ukraine. I drew it when I was 5, and it's like I don't want to be don't want to sound like I think a lot of myself, but that drawing is amazing. I can't believe I drew it when I was 5. So I studied the line work and how, how I was holding the pencil, and so it helped me to replicate this style. And I went online. Of course, I did the research on children's drawings and how how it looks. So yeah, that helped a lot with staying motivated for that.
Well, one of the things that was important to me when the publisher was, going to look for an illustrator was like, I really was hoping that they would pick somebody that would be able to nail the look of like children's drawings. Mm-hmm. Because, sometimes you'll see something that's trying to look childlike, but you can sense an adult behind it. And I just thought you did such a great job with showing the range of, very early childhood drawings up until, like 10, 11, 12-year-old drawings. And so that was really important to me. And I was so happy that, you nailed it. It's awesome. So
thank you.
Yeah,
that was the most exciting part. I think it's a dream job for any illustrator to play and be a child. Sometimes you have to push yourself, yes, but once you get in there, it's just amazing. Just to remember how it's done without any restrictions and no judging. You just draw images, what comes to you, you just draw them.
Right. I went back to some of the drawings when I was a kid too. And so I wrote the first draft before my daughter Ivy was born. And then if some people know, or if you don't know, I'll just tell you now, this book took me 10 years to write. So during that time, Ivy was growing up and giving me lots of drawings that I could use as inspiration. So I was looking to my old drawings and Ivy's drawings that she was making as we went along, and then also just from my imagination. So there's a lot of layers of imagination and looking to real things too. Well, that's cool. Timothy, what do you think? Should we do some questions maybe?
I think I would love to do some questions. I'll just remind folks, feel free to drop those questions in the chat and I will bring them to our presenters here. And I will also do a quick reminder that we have the link to buy the book in the chat as well. It really is a beautiful object, like as a book. That is one thing that's fun for me working at a bookstore, is that I love the like physical nature of books, and this one in particular is really, really beautiful. And Sophia, you answered one of the questions that I was going to ask about like looking at your old drawings and whether or not you had done that, because one of the things that really stands out to me is the, and Stephanie touched on this as well, but just the range of ages that are represented in these drawings. And I mean, I can't draw to begin with, but like I was blown away by the range of the illustrations. So again, I just wanted to throw that out there. And Stephanie, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but one of my questions for you is, do you draw?
I do draw. I love to draw. I don't do it professionally, but I have always loved to draw, and now I use it. So I don't do it professionally, but I use it as a tool in my writing work. I use it as a way to process things and just sort of shake me out of, like, here's an example, okay? This is my current like journal slash workspace, just for new ideas. I'm like kicking around some new ideas. And I don't know, this morning I was just like in a funk. And so I was like, okay, just stop like complaining to yourself in your morning pages journal and just I gave myself a little challenge. Draw yourself blind what you think you look like now. Okay, are you ready to see it? I drew it with my eyes closed.
Oh, nice. Nice.
It's more bangs than anything. Anyway, so I love to draw, and I use drawing as a tool. And I made a bunch of artwork for Pennsylvania that was only ever meant to be like behind the scenes, just for me, to help me imagine myself deeper into the world so I could write about it in greater detail and just immerse myself more in the whole idea of Pennsylvania.
Sophia, I'm going to flip this question on you now. Do you write?
Yes, I tried. I do write 2 images. I have some short stories that I illustrate first, and then I try to write some description of it. But it doesn't have any beginning or end. It's just some short happening from life. So that's what I have so far.
But Sophia, so I follow Sophia on Instagram, and if you don't already, is it Sophia Moore illustration?
Illustration, yes.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful. So follow her if you don't already. But I noticed that in a lot of your images, there feels like there's a story behind a lot of the images. They're very rich and layered. So when I look at them, I'm always like imagining a story. I kind of thought there must be something clicking in your head too about maybe not writing down words, but you've got like an idea of some sort of narrative there.
Yes, it comes from an image, and that's why it doesn't have any structure. It's just something happening to a character usually, and that's it. It's just a little thing.
I'm putting the your handle in the chat just to sign in or sign up, register, whatever you call it, subscribe. Never mind. You get it. You get it. Follow Sophia on Instagram.
Follow Sophia, absolutely. I do have a question from the chat. This is for both of you. Is there something that surprised you while you were working on this? A character that did something unexpected, or a drawing that took an unexpected turn?
I have one. Well, Sophia's thinking. So one of the in one of the final revisions, once it was already sold to Source Books, and I was working with my amazing editor, Annie Berger, over at Source Books, I was doing a big revision and I wanted to add a few new scenes. So I was like, oh, well, we don't have any self-portraits there. Let me make this little area of self-portraits. And I didn't know what that would be. I mean, I knew what the types of images would be in that, but it surprised me one morning to come up with the idea of the Zoracle. It's an oracle made up of her self-portraits, and it's like a little mountain range of her heads. Because when you draw a self-portrait in art class in elementary school, you draw like a bust, right? Or you paint a bust. So it's a bunch of like busts of Zora, and just, it surprised me that word, the Zoracle. And then that just gave me a whole bunch of other ideas about what this oracle of her own self, what her own self would say to her. But of course, in Pennsylvania, things are a little wonky. So maybe the advice isn't spot on, you know, like maybe it's a little weird and she's going to have to interpret it. So that was a surprising writing day for me.
Okay, is it my turn now? Well, I had a little challenge with the scene, with the night scene, where the constellation formed the face. I think it's really beautiful, and one of the images I made first was rejected with the art director because it was more like for a grown-up style illustration. It wasn't in the style of the rest of the book. So I had to redo it a couple of times, and I kind of feel bad because my first illustration was I liked the most. Another part was kind of sentimental for me to draw Zora's mom in a more grown-up style. It took some time to nail it, but it's a great part of the book too. I know it's painful and it means a lot, but you have to I'm sorry. Well, you have to go through this part, and it was very sentimental for me to draw this portrait.
It's a beautiful portrait. I love the drawings that the mom has made.
Let's see. So Stephanie, this is also a question from the chat. You said that this book took 10 years to write. Do you find it easier or faster to write picture books like Behold a Baby? Or was there something in particular about this one that it felt like you needed to go a little bit more slowly?
Yeah, I mean, I had hoped to be done by like 2014. I tried to sell the book then, but it just wasn't fully baked. And maybe I wasn't fully baked to write this book too. I mean, I think like all of the learning that I've done in the years that I've been working on it, you know, it's all gone in and enriched the story, I hope. I think just every book takes as long as it takes. So if I could have written it in a year, you bet I would have. But I was raising a child. I'm a solo parent. So, you know, if you've ever met a baby, you know, they take a lot of work and they need a lot of attention, which is wonderful too, because all of that richness of being a parent and watching somebody grow up like that gets baked into it too. Like there's a lot of Ivy, my child, in Frankie, in Zora's little sister, and there's a lot of her and Zora too. So Yeah, but also, you know, a novel is just so many more moving parts and layers than a picture book. So yes, it is easier to write a picture book. You know, I don't know what to say. Behold a Baby was kind of easy as far as books go, for whatever reason. That one came quickly. I actually wrote that speaking it out loud, and then I transcribed it. So that one came quickly. But who knows? I never know. And it seems like each novel takes me longer. I hope that's not the case for the next one, but who knows?
Sophia, this is also a question from the chat. Do you have any advice for young artists, young people who are, you know, learning to draw, exploring what they can do with drawing materials and paper?
Yes, I would advise to try as many different materials as possible. But if you don't have a big choice of materials, it is fine too. You can just draw with the pencil and just create amazing creations, and don't stop there. I know children have access to iPads now, and there is a drawing app called Procreate. I used it for this book. I made illustrations using Procreate on iPad. So this is the pencil. And it's just an amazing tool. You can be an artist just with Procreate. So this is my screen with different illustrations there. And you can replicate black and white pencil, or you can use, you can create marks using different settings, like a marker, watercolor in there, different textures and colors. It's endless. So I highly recommend using this iPad.
I was blown away, Sophia, when I found out that you had made all the art digitally using the iPad, just because you did such an amazing job of creating all these different textures and making things look like they were drawn in crayon or pencil, or it reads very much like those materials on paper. So that was cool to find out.
Yes, technology now allows all that. Of course, I scanned some of my hand-drawn textures. I used to layer to show different textures on landscapes. But mostly it's all digital on Procreate.
That's really amazing. Like I said, I'm the worst artist. So I'm always blown away when I've always wanted to be able to draw well and never been able to. So that's just my like love of your art in this book.
Thank you so much.
In general. Let's see, I think I have a couple of questions left from the chat. We are kind of getting to the end of the event. So if you do have other questions to drop in the chat, please do that now. This question is for both of you. I think it's probably starts with Stephanie in the text. You capture, this person says, you capture beautifully a child's ability to kind of forego reality, to live in a fantasy world. But also that time when kids are kind of in between the world of make-believe and the adult world, kind of on that cusp. How did you go about kind of capturing that in the book? And then Sophia, for you, how do you capture that in the drawings? That's a tough question. So if you need a moment to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I draw a lot from my own feelings. You know, I remember being a kid so, you know, even when I'm writing a work of fiction, like the circumstances are fictional, but the emotions are real. And a lot of times they're mine. And of course I had another kid, you know, raising a kid and witnessing her growth. Like I have a front row seat to emotional changes there. So that certainly informs my writing. And then I make it up. So I make it up and hope it works, hope it flies. I don't know. So it's a mix of all of those things. And then just in all of the revision, like calibrating, that was one of the most challenging parts for me, is like calibrating those emotional moments so they are impactful, hopefully, but not like overwrought and too heavy-handed. And sometimes as a writer, you don't know, you know, am I overdoing it here? Am I underdoing it? And that's where critique partners are very helpful. So in the back of the book, I name a whole bunch of people who helped me, you know, who read through the story and gave me really helpful feedback, like, here, it's way too much, or here it's, I don't even know what she's feeling here. So it's kind of a group effort. I certainly cannot take all of the credit for, if it's believable, then it took a village. Thank you.
Okay, well, for me as an illustrator, to be able to capture the emotion or to achieve certain effect, I have to make several versions of the same illustration. And the most important thing is to feel loose, not to feel loose and to be in the mood for this character or certain situation. And of course, it comes with practice. You have to make different versions of these illustrations, and also how the composition look on the page. It makes different impact with different placement of characters. And of course, how the contrast makes a big difference, contrast in color or in shade. So all these factors play a role in this.
Yeah, thank you. I think I've got one last question, and then we'll do kind of a goodbye. And that question, we always like to ask, you know, what are you working on now? What's the next thing that we should be on the lookout from both of you? You know, future projects, things that you're excited about, even, you know, what you might be making for dinner later, if that feels like it's less pressure.
Okay.
Want to go first, Sophia?
I finished working on a number of books, and I finished 7 books by now, and I'm waiting for last few books to be published, and I want to see how my illustrations looks in person. So I might adjust something in the way I'm doing things after I see how it looks on paper published. So I'm working on my portfolio and hoping to get a new assignment this year. I would like to illustrate a fairy tale or folk tale style book next, something more on the scary side, on the dark side, something like that. So that's my plan.
That sounds awesome. Well, and you also had mentioned that you're doing a lot of painting, like after doing a lot of digital work, right? You're like playing with painting canvases and.
Yes, as you can see behind, I have some work over there. Yes, I'm painting freestyle on paper and trying to go bigger on a bigger size canvas and so on.
Nice. Well, let's see. I have another middle grade novel that I wrote, but it's still in manuscript form. It hasn't sold as a book yet, but so I'm hoping to sell that. It's a novel told in 3 different first person perspectives, which was new for me. That was kind of I wanted to play with writing a book that was told from different points of view. And then I have a couple of picture books that are being shopped around. So that's the stage where I've kind of finished the manuscript as much as I can finish it for now. And then my literary agent takes it around to people, to editors, and says, do you want this? So we'll see about any of those. And in terms of what else I'm working on now, I will remind you that I'm making really cool pictures like this. Oops, there it is. No, I don't know. I'm just sort of playing around. You know, I know I've learned over the years, I've been doing this kind of work now for like almost 20 years, that the good ideas come when I'm in a playful place and not being too grabby for the next project. So I'm kind of in a phase right now of like, I'm noticing what I'm interested in. I'm noticing what I'm noticing and trying to follow that interest. So that's what I'm working on.
That's really exciting. Danny Shapiro, I think, always says, notice what you're noticing.
Yes.
Where you got that?
Yes, her, but then also I feel like, was it Julie Fogliano? I think had a project where she wrote down a thing every day. Julie Fogliano is the author of some cool picture books for kids. One is, what is it? And then it was spring, or then it's spring, I think is the title. That's my favorite book of hers. But she had a project for herself where she wrote down just one thing every day that she noticed. But yes, Danny Shapiro has a very cool book about writing. Is it the still writing book that you're thinking of?
I think that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful book for people who need some encouragement, which I always need as a writer. Yeah.
I think every writer I've ever met has needed a little encouragement now.
All the time.
Doesn't matter how many books they've published, how many awards they've won or anything. It happened.
That's right. It's challenging work. So it's good to have lots of support in the form of books, books by other people who have walked the path, and then great critique group, which I'm very lucky to have. Absolutely.
And I'll shout out again Sophia's Instagram handle, Sophia Moore Illustration on Instagram. Follow there for more. Stephanie, your website is stephanie-watson.com.
Yes, and can I just mention, I don't know if the chat shows up in the replay, maybe not, but I'll just paste it here. So I made this little YouTube series of 7 videos, and it's all about the behind the scenes of the process of Pennsylvania. So if it was interesting to hear a little bit about the behind the scenes, there it is. And I think if you're listening to this later and the chat has vanished, you can find my channel on YouTube, and it's a little playlist. So I had fun making that, and I show you all kinds of weird stuff that I use to make the book.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you both for being here. I'll remind everyone, don't forget to grab the link to buy your copy of the book. If you would like Stephanie to sign the book for you, when you order the book through our website, drop a note in the order comments, and we will set it aside, and we will arrange for Stephanie to come in and sign those books as quickly as possible. The coupon code is also in the chat. Again, don't forget to grab that. That's good for the next month. Really, all of these events like this are only sustainable when people order books from us. So if you enjoyed this, please, order Pennsylvania, order all of your Christmas gifts from us. I know everyone's going to be sick and tired of hearing about, the supply chain issues and all of that, but it really is impacting bookstores like us. So I will also remind you, if you're buying specific books like Pennsylvania, buy them early. But if you come in and are just browsing and looking for something in particular, we have over 25,000 books on our shelves, and all of our staff would be thrilled to help you find a book, a perfect gift for any of your friends and family. So that is the best way to keep events like this going. I also want to shout out really quick another event that folks may be interested in. We have an embarrassment of riches in the Twin Cities when it comes to middle grade authors in particular, but writers in general. So Anne Ursu's new book, The Troubled Girls of Dragomir Academy, just came out today, and we're doing an event with her and Kelly Barnhill 2 weeks from tonight on October 26th. So if you're interested, please see our website for info on that. I think that's it. Stephanie, Sophia, thank you so much again for being part of this.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Thank
Have a
you.
great evening, everyone. We are going to sign off. Don't forget to grab that stuff from the chat, and we will see you at the next event. And hopefully, so Stephanie's next book, we will be in person for that book event. So fingers crossed. All right. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.